The thing is, this isn't about manipulation. It's not about deception or trying to pull one over on people. You get to take your morals, your ethics, and your principles with you on this journey. It's about consistently reinforcing something about yourself that's true and authentically you. Every pen stroke in your new narrative brings you a little bit closer to bringing that story to life. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself who wrote the story you're living? Because here's the truth. Most of us didn't. We inherited it from parents, teachers, coaches, religious figures, media, and systems that told us who we were, what we were worth, and what we should believe about ourselves. And for a long time, most of us lived by that story. This week, we're digging deep into how those stories get written for us and how we can stop allowing others to hold the pen that has written and maybe continuing to write our story. Spoiler, it's not about erasing the past. It's about understanding the chapters that were written for us before so we can write the ones that are truly ours moving forward. So let's dig into that. You know how life throws us curveballs? I believe in the incredible human capacity to heal and grow from life's challenges. We all face adversity in life, whether it's dealing with loss, overcoming personal challenge, or navigating mental wellness. Nobody gets through this journey of life without a few storms. Welcome to Transformative Journeys. I'm your host, Joanna LaRue, and through various challenges on my journey, including the devastating loss of my son in a workplace tragedy in 2006, I have navigated a messy path towards healing and rebuilding. It's been a journey of self-discovery that has taught me invaluable lessons about coping, healing, and transforming my experiences into tools for personal growth. Each week, I'll share my thoughts and insights and dig into strategies that can empower you to rediscover yourself, learn about transforming pain into power, building confidence to navigate life's challenges, and cultivating a life of meaning and joy. Join me on this journey of exploration and transformation. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button on your favorite platform and tap the bell icon to be notified when new episodes drop. Welcome back to Transformative Journeys with Joanna, and hey, it's still Joanna here. Our story starts being written for us long before we can hold a pen to write it, long before we can even start using words or begin to think we have a story. Others around us started to shape our identity and our perception of who we were from almost the time we were born. And they continued to shape it through our developmental years and even into our teens and as young adults. Then societal pressure kicks in, telling us more about who we should be and how we should write our story in order for us to fit in. And in childhood, we are not the authors. Our caregivers, teachers, and early influencers, and even our friends narrated our world to us. You might have heard things like, "She's the shy one," or "He's my sensitive child." Or how about, "You were always loud right from the time you were born." Or maybe, "It's okay, you're not very good at math." How about, "You never finish anything you start." Or, "She's a little caretaker, always looking after her baby brother." And some of my favorites, "She's boy crazy," or "He's a wild one, no self-restraint at all." Most of these things might seem harmless or even affectionate, but the truth is that these early messages get internalized as truth and who we see ourselves as, especially during critical periods of brain development in early infancy and early childhood, but also in adolescence when there's also significant brain development in the areas related to social development and decision making. So the parts of our brain responsible for emotional processing, our limbic system, and reasoning and identity formation, which is our prefrontal cortex, are still under construction during those periods. So the messages we hear over and over from the people around us, especially if they have emotions attached to them, actually become part of our neural pathways and become part of our core beliefs about ourselves. And since we're too young to challenge them, we don't just believe them, we become them. You see, humans are storytellers. Anthropologically, our brains are wired for story. In fact, research shows that humans are basically story processing machines. We don't just remember events, our brains automatically organize them into coherent narratives that help us make sense of the world around us so that we can then communicate them back to other people. We take pieces of events, we store them for later as memories, and then we pull them together to form a script in our heads, not just about the events themselves, but about what people said, did, or meant, or we thought they meant as well. And often the way that we put these pieces together can be a result of past experiences and how those pieces of memories made us feel at the time. So what happens when those narratives are internalized? It can affect our confidence, our relationships, our willingness to take risks, and even our ability to heal. It shows up in the stories that we tell ourselves, like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough. I can't do hard things. I'm always messing things up. My job is to make everyone happy. If people knew the real me, they wouldn't love me. Sound familiar? These aren't just passing thoughts. They are etched in there like grooves in a record. I know I'm dating myself there. But it's not all doom and gloom. It's not just who I am, and it's definitely not, I'm just going to be like this forever. Owning the narrative means actively shaping our identity, goals, and who we want to be in life, rather than letting our past or other people do it for us. It means that you get to set the terms of who you are, what you believe, and where you're going from here. And thanks to neuroplasticity, again, I'm such a brain science geek, which is our brain's incredible ability to rewire itself, our brains can change. And with a little work, we can rewrite our internal narrative. We get to pick up the pen and write the next chapter in our story, and we get to own the narrative of that new chapter. Rewiring our brains to create our own narrative isn't about saying mantras and wishful thinking. Nope. Put on your boots and buckle up, because we are on a mission of developing awareness, producing disruption, and crafting replacement. It starts with learning to recognize those old scripts when they show up, and then asking, who says this is who I am? Is this actually true? Once we start identifying those scripts, we follow up with interrupting and disrupting the pattern when those scripts come up. We're going to examine where that script came from and start looking for the evidence proving it's not true. choosing to focus on our strengths and our successes and our positive qualities rather than perceived failures or shortcomings. And this does not mean that we are going to dwell on blame and finger pointing while we're determining where those beliefs about ourselves came from. We're proving it's not true to ourselves. We don't have to friggin' defend or explain ourselves to anyone. We then get to choose to reframe and replace those outdated or untrue scripts with new ones using language that reflects our values, our growth, and our truth. And be honest and be true to yourself about this. We are not pulling data from others' expectations of us. We are pulling it from our real lived experience. Now comes the hardest part of all those here. Sorry. Now we go out in the world and we make it our external narrative too. Now we live our story on our own terms. Sounds a bit scarier, right? It was for me. Because the truth is, some people are going to continue to try and squash you back into that old script. And some people are not going to like it when you don't let them. It might be your boss trying to cram you back down into the role you've played for years to fuel their ego or keep everyone else happy. It might be your friends who want to wedge you back into their concept of what it means to fit in. It might be your significant other who's terrified that if you grow, you're going to leave them behind. So they do their best to push you back into that old mold so that they feel safe. It might even be your family. They can sometimes push back the hardest because theirs was likely the earliest narratives you were given. And they might find it hard to let go of who they thought you were or who they wanted you to be. But you know what? Wherever it's coming from, it might be scary at first, but it's also pretty fucking awesome to start learning how to be true to yourself. The thing is, this isn't about manipulation. It's not about deception or trying to pull one over on people. You get to take your morals, your ethics, and your principles with you on this journey. It's about consistently reinforcing something about yourself that's true and authentically you. Every pen stroke in your new narrative brings you a little bit closer to bringing that story to life. It's about starting to show up and move through your life being and being seen as who you really are. It's about no longer letting ourselves be forced into playing a part in others' stories about who we are. So having said all that, here are some of my best tips on growing through writing your own narrative. The first is to be discerning about what you let into your head. Whether that's on social media, commercials, billboards, television, or regular media, I like the term garbage in, garbage out. Wherever we turn, there are articles and advertising and images telling us how we ought to think, feel, and look. They tell us what we need to do to be more attractive, to be more successful, to be more, you fill in the blanks. We need to be our own content censor and start to be mindful of what we allow into our cerebral space. The second is to start paying closer attention to what that little voice in our head is saying. Do you know that according to research, the average person has approximately 60,000 thoughts per day, and that on average, about 75% of those thoughts are negative, and 95% of them are repetitive. Have you ever actually stopped and listened to what your little voice is saying or how it's making you feel? Would you talk to someone you love the way that your little voice talks to you? Of course you wouldn't. And when you start to listen, you might even find that that little voice in your head isn't actually you at all. Remember, other people's narratives. So practice becoming more aware of how you are talking to you. Start asking yourself if he or she is telling the truth or if she's lying to you. When you hear yourself being negative or hurtful, start rewriting or reframing those thoughts. Instead of, I'm so stupid, try, I make mistakes like everyone else, but I'm learning from this. Or instead of, I'm just not lovable, try saying, I am worthy of love and kindness. Next, we want to start to create a clear vision of the story that we want to live out and who and how we want to be in that story. Your vision of who you want to become and the story and experience you want for your life will help you get through the hard times, the hard conversations, and the self-doubt that's still going to come creeping in. Knowing how you want to narrate your life story will help you prevent others from pushing you off your path. Next, it's time to set boundaries for yourself. And this can be hard sometimes, but it's so important. Sometimes those boundaries are around what we'll read or watch or listen to. Sometimes it means seeing less of the people who struggle the most with the new narrative we're writing for ourselves. And sometimes it means saying no. It's time to be clear about what you are or are not willing to do, who you are and are not willing to allow into your life, and what situations you'll allow yourself to be in. But above all else, as always, be gentle with yourself. When you find yourself believing your little voice or other people's narratives, gently correct yourself, reset, and move ahead. If you have a notebook or paper handy today, I'm going to encourage you to start considering what you want your new story to look like. Ask yourself these kinds of questions. What story have I been telling myself about my worth? Whose voice does that sound like? What do I want to believe instead? This week we talked about rewriting the stories we've been told and learning to write our own narrative about who we want to become. No matter what the previous part of the story was, we are free to write the next chapter, and the next, and the next. As we wrap up, I want you to remember you truly can be the author of your own story. It won't always be easy. Not everyone will be happy with your new script, but the pen is in your hands and nobody else's. And try to remember always, be kind to yourself on this journey, as well as to those who may have had a hand in writing those chapters that you want to leave behind. We are all only ever doing the best we can with the tools and information we have at the time. Thank you so much for being here with me today. You can find more on resilience at transformativejourneys.ca, and of course, grab yourself my resiliency toolkit for free, or find me on Instagram at transformativejourneys.joanna. If you found this helpful or think someone else might, please share it or leave a review. It does help more than you know. Also, hit that subscribe button on your favorite platform and tap the bell icon to be notified when new episodes drop. Next week, we're going to be talking about boundaries, the kind that come without guilt. How to say no and still be kind. Until then, this is Joanna reminding you that it doesn't matter if you fall. What matters is how well you bounce. This is Transformative Journeys. See you next time. Hey, Just a disclaimer, this podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and should not replace the advice of a medical or mental health expert. I am not a licensed counselor or therapist. In fact, I don't have a degree in anything, and there are no fancy letters after my name. I'm a full-time student at the School of Hard Knocks, University of Life, where I figure I'll graduate when I take my last breath. In other words, I'm just Joanna, a fellow human being on my journey through this thing called life, and your guide on this transformative journey.